7th on NBC.
And we're back again on Southeast Texas Weekly. Thanks for being here. We've built some stars around here in the political world in Southeast Texas. We've built some stars, and now we're going to have to deal with their huge egos over having become
Please
local.
don't compare us to Charlie Sheen. Okay?
Local celebrities. No,
Everybody understand how special?
You're no Charlie Sheen. Y'all are far. You're far better than that. Jeffrey Lewis joining us, Precinct 27 chair for the Republican Party. Godfrey Leggett with the Progressive Democrats in Southeast Texas, and Shane Howard, of course, the Jefferson County tax assessor collector, and a staunch Republican in our area. We start with you, Shane. Is staunch the right word for you?
Staunch capitalist, absolutely, and it happens to be that the Republican Party is the party that embraces that probably the most.
Staunch conservative.
Yep.
Are conservatives doing the right thing in Washington regarding the budget battle? We start with the budget.
Yes. I do think that they need to continue to push the message out to the people a little bit more, because there is a narrative that's been established that somehow the status quo is acceptable, and that it's just mean-spirited Republicans who, just want to cut people off of certain things, when the bottom line, everybody, the president, Democrats in the Senate and in the House, etc., have all conceded the point that we are overspending and that we have to drastically reduce our spending.
Well, let's see. Mean-spirited Republicans. Maryland Republicans ended all county money for low-income kids' preschool program. Why? No need, they said. Women really should be at home with the kids.
Now, cite this. Where are you talking about? Where's this happening?
Maryland.
This is Maryland.
This is just a whole bunch of little Republican goodies.
And they said that women should be at home with their kids.
Yes,
That's exactly what they said.
Well, this is whoever.
Wow.
I don't have the guy's name. I'm just saying.
I don't think that's what happened.
Along, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
What is it, Godfrey, let me ask you this. What is it about in the state of New Jersey, about Governor Chris Christie?
He's overweight.
What is it about him being able to say that we have to that we're at a time of austerity and we have to do something? And
he hasn't missed any meals.
Well, and you don't. We don't actually, when we hear Chris Christie, we kind of think to ourselves almost an FDR. You're telling us we need to tighten the belt, and we're ready to do so.
It seems like every project they do up there in New Jersey and in Boston goes over budget by thousands, millions of dollars. He cut off funding for that tunnel they wanted to build. Maybe that would have been a good thing. I don't know. I don't know anything about that economy up there. But all the things that the Republicans are chewing on right now are little things. They're not the real problem. You got to get to, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the defense budget, and the interest.
But it's the entitlement you're talking about that Democrats failed to address, and just
so did the Republicans.
Well, no doubt.
What we need to see is a clear embrace of entitlement reform. I think the country's getting ready for that now.
And I'm actually going to agree with both of you on this. Medicare, mandatory spending, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Some of us have been talking about that for years, and finally we have the left willing to engage in it. Now, whether or not we can engage in an honest way that doesn't just look for who has more money than we do in order to get that to fund, because we have a $100 trillion unfunded liability out over the next 40 years.
Yes, and we're wasting $2 billion a day in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Whether we are wasting it or not is a whole other question. I don't disagree.
I don't see anything coming back for that $2 billion
I don't disagree with you that we need to have. I don't disagree that we need to have the overall conversation. I finally welcome individuals like yourself and your fellow travelers to the conversation, because we've been having to have it for many, many years.
Godfrey, let me ask you this. Has the Republican Party made a mistake by, in essence, targeting Planned Parenthood? There is an effort in the House.
I don't understand what all this stuff going on like that and up in Wisconsin with the unions. What does this have to do with job creation? And what does this have to do with lowering the deficit? I don't understand this.
I do.
This is a Republican ideological agenda.
We'll explain it to you in a second.
This is you guys' agenda, that you hate unions, you want to destroy them.
Wow.
You guys, don't look at me.
That's harsh.
I'm apolitical
Republicans in general.
That's harsh, Shane. We say hate unions. I'm a union person myself.
Would love to repeal everything that says New Deal on it, and would like to get rid of unions and just make everybody work for peanut wages. Work all day long,
Interestingly,
7 days a week, no holidays.
How about this, though, Godfrey? In Wisconsin, the collective bargaining changes that the governor Governor Walker is looking for there, does it include wages and salary? No, it doesn't.
It's
it
not
only
even including wages and salary. It's not even.
It's strictly benefits.
It doesn't. It's only benefits. It's only pensions.
And so-
here's the thing: the federal government, President Obama, who is the head of the federal government, correct? Do you know that federal employees, even after these collective bargaining changes go into effect in Wisconsin, which they will, do you know that they will still have greater rights to negotiate than federal union employees do?
But Shane,
and yet,
the
Yes, well, that's
government
good. I wish
employees.
the federal employees had the same rights.
nobody's
Except
protesting
for
there.
striking.
But the
Nobody's
government
sitting on
employees
President
in
Obama's
Wisconsin,
doorstep.
they're essentially, they've said, look, you're stripping us of benefits that we were promised. Is it not
they're not being stripped of benefits. What the reality is that this cannot continue, and so the governor has said, look, we're going to have to cut.
Raise taxes
We're
just a
going to
little bit.
have to cut jobs, or we're going to have to get some additional concessions here, and we cannot continue this process where you hold the public. They go after the governor, they go after the House and the
Somebody
Senate there,
needs to.
but the
Yes.
bottom line is they're
Going
actually
crazy.
going against the people. Even some of the staunchest
I think
union
you'll find the
supporters
people.
in the 1920s
I think
and
you'll
30s.
find public opinion is against the governor.
Let him finish.
FDR said that public employee unions were a great danger to this country. He was a pro-union guy. Public employee unions are a problem because they're not holding, they do jobs that we will not go without.
But Mr. Howard, let me ask
They
you
have
this.
monopolistic demand for
FDR
their
was a friend of
services.
labor and for unions.
If
He
in
was
fact,
against
Shane,
public sector
He was
unions.
against the public.
Shane, if
Only
in fact
the right to
the
strike.
Republicans are on
Nope.
the side of God when it comes to this, why are there thousands of people, I say that jokingly, why are there thousands of people demonstrating in Wisconsin
Because
against
there are
what?
thousands of people who have benefited from a system in which they were able to threaten to leave and to tug on the heartstrings of people and get just a handful of folks to vote rather than the
But Shane,
marketplace
the
to vote.
firefighters and the police, which are not even covered by
Right.
this, they're out there with their union brothers protesting.
Of course they are.
Because they don't want to see, they're next on the list. And
Because they
know it.
want candy?
It's not.
they're next
it's
on the
not
list
that.
and they
It's
know
ju-
it.
It's just that's the
The
culture.
Republicans want to destroy the unions, period. They want
That's
them
an
gone.
The problem is that it's an unequal yoke. You have the employees unions that are bargaining with the government. There's absolutely no incentive for anyone to say no. There's no negotiation there. It's pat your back kind of a deal, and you're not actually having any debate over whether or not these benefits are actually good for the state. The state legislatures up there are simply, beholden to the unions,
They just want
and that's why collective bargaining does not work for public employees as well as it does for private
people
employees.
just want
And that was the point that
these
FDR tried to
people,
make when he had that.
Jeffrey,
It was not. It was JFK in 1960 that introduced that.
They just want a decent retirement, Jeffrey.
So does everybody. But,
Well,
exactly.
some
But
people
is
have to
it the
compete for
taxpayer's
it.
business to give it to them?
But Godfrey's making the point that there's been a covenant, there's been a pact made with people through these unions, and it's unfair now to pull the rug out from under
The
them.
rug's not being pulled out from underneath. Everybody's funding is secure. What they're
Give
talking
me a
about is
break.
future contracts. And it's not the governor they're protesting. They may think they are, but they're actually protesting their very employers, which
These
are the people
vote,
of Wisconsin.
okay, and they will remember.
Oh,
Yes, they vote,
fine,
and that's
terrific.
fine.
So
Do
do
it
the
through the
people that they're
democratic
picketing,
I'm
which are the
surprised.
people of Wisconsin that voted these folks in to do exactly what they're doing.
But one at a time, Jeffrey. go ahead.
But let the democratic process play itself out. But don't run off to Illinois because you don't like what's going on. You stay there and you vote your conscience,
No, but
and
it's
don't try to
easier-
hold
I say
the
again, what does
legislature
this have-
hostage
what does this have
to a standoff.
What does this have to do with job creation?
It has to do with this. In these very states that we're dealing with this, they all have the highest tax rates. They all have the highest deficits as a percentage of their gross domestic product and their production. They are going under. They are threatened
I
with
have to move on
bankruptcy.
because I want to get to some Texas
what it
news
has to
here in
do
just a
with.
minute. But first, I want to cover one last thing from the federal angle, and that is Newt Gingrich, who has become the first major presidential candidate,
He has
so
an
to speak. He's an
exploratory committee to
exploratory
explore
committee.
his exploratory committee.
Yeah,
will become
exactly.
Is that the person that the Republican Party would wish to have forward at this
I
time?
don't know. I don't care right now. I'm still trying to win an argument. We'll get to the personalities as they come out.
Newt Gingrich. I mean, he's been through
hope they
a
do
few
run him.
scandals in his day. Is Newt Gingrich the new face of the Republican Party?
Well, I would say he's actually an older face of the Republican Party. I think the newer faces will be the Mike Pences, the Tim Pawlenty's and such. But you know, we'll have plenty of time to sort out who the eventual nominee is going to be. What we need to face now is the prospect of governing. We have a new Congress that has a Republican, and we have a majority in the House. We've got to negotiate with the Democratic Senate, and we've got to make the president understand that job creation,
Shane, we have to
growth
go to
and
you.
not just prosperity.
Yeah,
Quickly, at the state level, in Austin, what is sacrosanct? We have so many different cuts that we have to make to balance the budget.
Certainly.
What is sacrosanct?
There are certain things that have to be sacrosanct because they are in law and because we've accepted several unfunded mandates from the federal government. And that's not President Obama's
Raising
fault
taxes is
exclusively.
sacrosanct. They won't raise taxes.
So anyway, we have certain mandatory spending. We have a very small portion of the budget that we can even affect. And what we have to do is look at services that should be offered by the state, both constitutionally and that we commonly accept, like education, et cetera, and make sure that we are delivering them as effectively and efficiently as possible. And so nothing is sacrosanct to be looked at. And the idea,
can't raise taxes.
but no, because it destroys jobs.
Listen,
It
God,
destroys
Republicans
production.
say this all the time.
And we know
it
it
is
to be
not
true.
No, it's not. History proves.
Godfrey,
that in
tens
some
of
the
billions
times-
are going to come out of
doesn't prove
education.
that.
Tens of billions.
That's where we should spend more money, not less. We're not doing a good job of educating our kids. All we're doing is teaching the tax test. We need to let the teachers have control again.
Agreed. What does that have to do with money?
Thank you.
Where do we cut? In the scenario by which we're 15 to 27 billion dollars in the
Somebody needs to take a
red.
sensible look at all this.
Well, what is the
which I don't
sensible
think
look?
is being done.
What is the sensible
But take-
look? Quickly, Godfrey. What's
Spend
the
money on the important things that we need.
We are.
Well, where do we cut then?
It's how
That's
much.
the
The question is how much.
The thing is
Because
that
cuts have to come from
dollars
somewhere.
don't translate into education. Okay, you take Wisconsin. They spend more dollars per capita per student than we do here in Texas. Yet across the board, when you take it down by demographic, throughout the age groups, 4th, 8th, 12, white, Hispanic, African American, Texas outperforms in 17 out of 18 categories compared to Wisconsin. Look it up. I'll send you
Shane,
the
it's
article
time
later.
for gambling to come back into the state of Texas and fund education.
Well, whether it's to fund education or not, number one, I've lived in a state that had legalized gambling, along with an income tax and a property tax and a sales tax. It's not this solution. However, as a principle of basic economics and liberty, I could care less. If gambling comes in the state of Texas, go for it. And
Well,
it needs to be regulated appropriately, but the idea that it will rescue anything
Gotta run.
is
It's
not
not
the
a
way to run it.
panacea, but we shouldn't be sending our money over to Louisiana.
Got to run, my friends, in terms of time. As always, a spirited debate, and we love having you guys. So thanks so much
Love being
for
here.
Lots of fun.
being with us once again.
He's a teacher and a union guy.
He's-
Jeff Lewis is, our,
Leave
Republican.
me out
The
of
Charlie
this.
Sheen of our crew. The Charlie. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it, and we hope to see you next time here on Southeast Texas Weekly.